Dear students, let us start the discussion on 15th November 2016 newspaper. The first article is related to the Trump's blazing. In this context, there are 3 points the author is majorly focusing on. What made the Trump to win the election? And how the American society is divided? What will be its implications for the world at large? These are the 3 areas. Now if you see, American society is divided like never before. Most of the white Americans have favored Trump and immigrants have favored for Hillary Clinton. And the second thing is, the campaign of Mr. Trump is based on conservatism, majoritarianism and populism. It's a mix of populism and majoritarianism. And he has played to the fears of the people, especially people from inner states. Now, if you clearly observe the West Coast and the East Coast, these are the major beneficiaries of globalization and they are dominant with the immigrant population. So, these two areas, they have by and large voted in favor of Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. But inside states, they have voted in favor of Mr. Trump. So there is a divide among the American society and also American geography, how they see the things now. And further to this, with regard to the conservatism and populism, bringing back the jobs to America, making America great again, these particular campaigns were highly appealing to the people, especially in the manufacturing sector, which has suffered a blow because of globalization. So, if Trump resorts to protectionism, then how it will impact the global economy is a question. On the other hand, Democrats at the primary level, Mr. Bernie Sanders was the opponent to Hillary Clinton. Bernie also has spoken about populism centered around welfareism. But Mr. Trump spoke about the populism which is centered around the protectionism. So in this context, if we see the world, whenever there is a crisis, economic crisis, the conservative leaders have dominated. Now, if you talk about 2008 crisis, there is a drastic movement towards the right-wing governments across the Europe. A general trend is towards protectionism. So, in the upcoming elections in France, Germany, Hungary, Austria, everywhere you can see the growth of the right-wing politics. The next one is the demonetization and after. I will discuss this article along with the next article. Both of them are about demonetization. Hope floats in Colombia. You know that a reconciliation effort was done in Colombia between the revolutionary forces and government under Mr. Santos, the president. Now, Santos also received a Nobel Prize for the same. And the regional leaders, America, everyone have their efforts towards bringing peace in Colombia. Not just this, even the economic situation in Colombia asks for a reconciliation and long-lasting peace over there. So in a referendum, the peace deal was not accepted by the people. So in this context, the first question which has come up is, do referendums represent the larger will of the people or not? Can democracy made to suffer under mobocracy? These are the questions which have come up. Beyond that, if you observe, the development can only occur whenever there is a political stability free from violence. The development can be just and reasonable when the violence is shed from it. And the commodity prices have decreased all over the world. It means the mineral wealth, the cost of the minerals and the petrol, all these have come down. So the Colombian economy is suffering hard. In this context, the alternative sources of income shall be tourism, trade, etc. It needs to be spread, it needs to be percolated. Only the political stability can bring in the same. So that's what we need to work out with regard to Colombia. So when cash is not king, here we need to understand certain points. India has highest cash transactions in the world. The cash to GDP ratio is very high. And second, contrary to this, the tax to GDP ratio is very low. It means the tax payments are around 16% of the GDP size in India. And among this, the direct tax component is less than the indirect tax component. And the parallel economy size is expected to be to the tune of $300 to $400 billion. So the demonetization move is to curb or else to improvise India's standards on these following parameters. One is counterfeit currency will be done away with. Second, most of the terror financing happens in cash, the bulk cash transfers. So in this case, that will also come to a halt. And the third thing is, the honest man who is paying the taxes, he will be motivated to pay the taxes and will be incentivized. On the other hand, the corruption to an extent will come down in the government. But however, the liquidity crunch which the country is facing as of now, it is going to get an impact on various sectors. Especially the sectors that are dependent on cash transactions are going to face the worst scenario. In this case, the real estate sector, most of the transactions are cash based. And the second thing is, the demonetization alone will not be sufficient. We need to take the other steps too. The tax rate, if it is very high, the people will have an incentive not to pay the taxes. The tax evasion will be high when the tax rates are high. So in this context, if the tax rates are decreased, then the people will have incentive to come under the tax net. And second thing is, with regard to the multitudinal taxes, the tax structure need to be revisited. With the oncoming of the GST, the stamp duties etc. need to be done away with. And along with these tax measures, we also has to ensure a proper education of the people with regard to the tax systems and the need to become formal in the economy for the larger interests of the country. Let's take the next article, the tragedy of commons. So with regard to this article, understand it this way. The commons, what they are called as. So whatever we see, for example, our environment, which is our collective resource, this can be called as a common. We all have a tendency to neglect our commons. We are guided by our self-interest rather than the interest on protecting our commons. So this explains the ongoing environmental destruction. So how we shall face this? The first thing is the individual and social costs on inaction related to environmental pollution need to be addressed. It means that with regard to individual action, education of the people is the first thing. And the second thing is, if they are not following what is expected, then providing some penalties and asking them to pay for that. So that will reduce, that will bring in an individual burden for disturbing the common resources of all of us. And the second thing is, we have generally a compensatory approach towards the environmental destruction. We shall move towards the so-called as precautionary principle towards this. What is meant by precautionary principle? Rather than compensation, we have to ensure that no one shall destruct the environment. So providing for a compensation after destruction shall not be the answer. That is more of called as transactional approach. But we need a transformational approach where we prevent the destruction of the environment itself in the first place. And finally, if environment has to be, or environmental concerns have to be addressed, people need sensitivity towards the environment. And this sensitiveness has to be developed for the protection of the environment and the rights of the others. So when we follow this, probably we can improve the environment. And coming to the breakthrough with Japan. Now, Prime Minister Modi, he has visited Japan. Before going into the discussion, let us understand the Indo-Pacific region is becoming a more global hotspot and a strategic region. If you can see South China Sea, or if you can see the alliance, democratic alliance which is growing between India, Australia, Japan and US. So these things makes the Asia-Pacific region a strategic asset or a strategic point. That's why President Obama's pivot to Asia is stressing or keeping a stress on this region. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Japan has some critical developments. The first one is India-Japan nuclear deal was signed. The second thing is there is convergence of interest between these two regions. One is with regard to Chabahar port. Japan is going to come along with India to build this port, which is crucial for the region. And second, various infrastructure projects which are being taken up by Japan are going to move forward. And there is convergence realized between Act East policy of India and open and free Asia Pacific policy of Shinzo Abe. So in this context, if both the countries oppose the Chinese intervention in South China Sea and they preach for free and open high seas and skies. And added to that, in the Malabar exercise, Japan is also participating. This all shows that the India and Japan is going through to converge their interests for better, safe and stable Asia. And balance of power also need to be readjusted in this region, as the Trump has clearly stated that he has no interest in this region. He don't want US to be a global police force. So in this context, the rebalance has to happen within Asia itself without the existence of United States of America. So coming together, India and Japan is inevitable at this particular moment. So these are the perspective articles today. So again, I am driving the points over here. When cash is not king, the article stresses that the short-term pains have to be taken for the long-term gains. And this demonetization will not alone end the corruption. It has to be associated with other factors, other steps such as ending the Binami transactions and properties and restructuring the taxes. And coming to the tragedy of global commons, we need to understand that if individual costs and social costs are made to realize by the people, we cannot decrease the destruction of our commons. And added to that, we need to shift from compensatory mindset for environmental destruction to precautionary mindset. It means we have to ensure that the environment is not destructed at all, rather than compensating the people for its destruction. And the third thing is, the environmental cost shall be the part of our economic calculations. When you calculate the GDP, out of this GDP, what is the cost incurred to the environment need to be removed. So this is what is called as green GDP. So these are the three steps which are being recommended by this particular article. So these are the discussions for the perspective. Now coming to China insists on NPT. China insists on NPT for NSG entry. Now, what is the China's stand on NSG and what is the India's stand on NSG? NSG is seen as an disarmament move by the China. India sees the NSG as just an export controller. Now, NSG as a union towards nuclear non-proliferation, if it is seen that way, then all the members of NSG shall be NPT signatories. That is Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty signatories. France is an exception then. And when Brazil joined the NPT, Brazil joined the NSG, it was not a signatory of NPT. This is what is the India's argument. The second thing is, China says that non-NPT countries shall have a criteria to enter into NSG. So, a common principle has to be developed and this has to be implemented in a fair and transparent manner for non-NPT countries to enter into NSG. Now, the China wants to make for the Pakistan to enter into NSG through this, or it wants to keep the gates closed for India. If you want to enter along with Pakistan, or you don't have your doors open alone for you. That's what is the China stand. So, it means by making this, China wants to hyphenate India and Pakistan with regard to the nuclear proliferation. India is a responsible nuclear power, but hyphenating that with Pakistan automatically will make the India's claims go down. So, India and Japan signing a nuclear agreement will definitely give an India's push towards its entry into NSG, but NSG makes all its decisions unanimously. It means that even one single member of the NSG opposes the move, then it will be curtailed. So, recently the New Zealand Prime Minister has visited India, and also India made its pitch for NSG entry, and we shall see the Chinese opposition how it will come down. And coming to Israel's president visit to India, he is on a 6-day visit, and if you talk about India-Israel relations, they are subjected to change as the governments change in India. Now, when NDA government was in power, Mr. Ariel Sharon has visited India. After that, there was no visit of Israeli leader to India. And this is the one, Mr. Rivlin is coming to India. Then obviously, Prime Minister Modi is expected to visit Israel. So it is making a ground for the same. And India-Israel cooperation has been taken up. Israel is known for its water harvesting techniques and also growing the crops with minimal use of water. India can buy these technologies from them. Now, there is one. Dear students, let us see this particular article, how to prepare the notes. Now, most of you have a habit of making a support to explanation first and then giving the statement at the end. So, please reverse this. Now, let's take the trial trumps blazing. In this article, if you see the point, first I tried to make a statement. It is the most divisive election in the US history. Then I give the support to explanation. Then if possible, I will give an example. So, all the notes which I am making, it will go in that particular way. Even when you are writing an answer in GS, the first you need to give the statement. Don't go with a derivative approach of writing answer. A derivative approach means we will give you the support to explanation first and then finally we make the statement as a derived from the support to explanation. So, examiner will not be focusing on your explanation because it appears like you are beating around the bush. Rather than make the statement first and then give the explanation in support of the statement and reinforce that with the examples. So, that is how I make my notes. And I'll bring once in a week a small booklet kind of or small information with 5 to 6 pages with the topics which are in the news in the week, so that you can study that particular notes once in a week and you can revise your videos. So once you watch the videos, try to read this particular notes, that will help you. And again, the notes is available at laex.in/civilsprep on this particular website, laex.in, laex.in/civilsprep. There the notes is available for you. Now, once in a week, I will consolidate the topics and give you the notes over there. So, this is about today's newspaper. Thank you very much. All the best.